Hello and welcome to another daily, yes, daily Muppet. I think this is 4 in a row, so I'm working on it. But it will not happen over the weekend, unfortunately, as I do not have the time then. But another daily Muppet. Today I want to follow up on the situations of Harry Maguire, Fred as he nears his exit, the replacements, Amrabat, and cover a few more things. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about Fred first. Let me find what I shared at the start of the week. Let's see here. At the start of the week, I was told that after there were some reports on a bid from Saudi being accepted, I was told that that was not the case. However, the situation for Fred was about to become a lot more live, as interest from Turkey was set to be revitalized, and United were expecting offers to come in, and that from the player's perspective, he was open to a move to Turkey. Now it's been reported, and then yesterday I heard that there was again some more progress. Now, it's been reported that Fenerbahce has made a new bid for Fred that is in the range of 15 million euros. However, I am also told that that bid is not likely to be accepted. It includes add-ons. I don't know what the base fee is, but that talks continue over the structure of that deal, while United also expect potentially more offers to come in and more interest to be had in Fred for a sale to occur. It's not imminent, but it is moving forward, and they do expect that this will happen likely early next week. So again, Fred open to the move. Offers now starting to come in. Turkey very much the most likely destination, but there's still potentially an offer expected from, say, Fulham to compete with it. In the meantime, United remain in talks with the Turkish club Fenerbahce to continue working on the fee and see if they can't get it up to a more requisite level, as they feel it's still a bit too low, and that they might be able to get better offers than that. But they will allow Fred to move on. They will allow him to be sold and go to a club where he can play a lot more and get more of what he wants, which is to have a significant role that he still feels he can offer to a team, and he's open to it. So I do expect that this one will continue to move in the next couple of days, and we'll talk about Amrabat at the end as it ties into that. But the sale of Fred begins to move forward, and I would again say after the weekend is when we'll see this one pick up to potentially get done. Moving on to Harry Maguire, obviously the situation is kind of still hanging, but what I want to say is don't worry about it. This deal looks like it is going to now get done. As of yesterday morning, as I had heard, the only issue remaining was the negotiation over how to deal in the difference between the wages that he's getting paid at United and the wages he's getting paid at, or he would be getting paid at West Ham. This has been reported now as the singular thing that needs to be discussed, and there's going to be some kind of compromise reached. It's not done, but it's expected to be done. It will not be finished again by the weekend. You're not really going to see a lot of outs going on before the registration deadline on Friday, before the this game week, but come Tuesday, Wednesday, I think you're going to see the swift exit of Harry Maguire, as well as potentially Fred too in there. So the Maguire deal is close. The Maguire deal is very close. Everybody expects it to go through at this point. It's just about working out that kind of agreement to get him off the books, and to pay off those wages. And they are significant, 9 million pounds, I think, is the total. And it's a little bit, here's the thing, my opinion. I want to just give a little bit about my opinion on this, because I can see both sides of the angle here. One, United are accepting a fairly low fee for him from West Ham, and so you'd like to see them help kind of get the deal done with some of their how would I put this? You'd like to see them get a deal done with some of their with like a sign-on bonus to help make up the gap, right? You'd like to see them do that because 30 million pounds is kind of at the low end of what's acceptable. At the same time, you know, it's United that agreed that contract with Maguire, and it's not the current regime, but an old regime. Maguire will say, look, you gave me a 6-year contract when you signed me that I was, set to be the main part of the plans under a different manager. Things changed. It's not really totally his fault that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked and that the manager changed and all of that. That's not really on Maguire, who was actually very good for under Ole. And he's not the player he used to be. The situation isn't the same for him at United. It kind of goes both ways, but at the same time, Harry should be open to some kind of agreement, some kind of compromise, so that he can get his career going again. And you'd like to think he would do that rather than sitting on the bench, and I don't think he will. I think an agreement is definitely going to be reached that will allow him to move to West Ham and play. And really kind of nail down a spot again so that he can play for England. I think he'll be successful there and can really get his career restarted and not have it be on this kind of negative downtrend that it's been at United. So I expect no problems with this. It's just going to take a few more days to get done. And if it doesn't, I mean, then I would really critique Harry Maguire for not being willing to compromise and work on this. But at the same time, obviously, the club gave him the contract too. So there's criticisms to go both ways. Obviously, it wasn't Erik ten Hag and John Murtaugh that gave him that contract, but still, there is a contract. There's plenty of blame to go around as to how this Maguire situation has played out. There's no conflict at the moment. I want to be clear. I'm just discussing it. It's okay. It's normal. This is all kind of good and expected. I would say that a big part of it as well is that United will not have a replacement, and they don't want to go into this weekend down and not having the players to play. And so, Maguire will be probably on the bench this weekend, and in case of something is needed. And so then they're going to want to have that replacement lined up as well, which moves us to Benjamin Pavard and Todibo. And the situation, of course, is that has been well documented and now reported by The Athletic as well, something I mentioned earlier, that Pavard was approached earlier, but he only wanted to play center back. He was approached as a right back. He wanted to play center back. That's where he wants to focus his time and position on. And so now he's back into the frame as a center back. And I think that means he's probably a very legitimate option since United have had him on their list for a while and already had earlier dialogue and things like that. Meanwhile, Todibo is obviously someone they've been looking at and are interested in. I think it's going to come down to costs here. What kind of wages, what kind of expectations do these players have? What kind of role do they want? Todibo is obviously younger. It seems like Ten Hag would maybe prefer Benjamin Pavard, but they're both legitimate options. Negotiations will move forward on both players and then getting them ready. And then as Maguire exits, a decision will be made in an instant. And, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not sure if anybody knows for sure who it will be. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Benjamin Pavard being the signing because I just think it's kind of, I think he's going to be more affordable, and I think because he was approached earlier, Erik ten Hag likes him. But the thing to be clear is that this would not be a signing that replaces Dalot or Wan-Bissaka or something like that, or allows them to sell it, because he's not going to come and then say, oh yeah, I'll be your right back later on. Obviously, could he cover right back in a place of an injury? Yes. Could he, in this build-up nice back three, does he fit where then Luke Shaw can drop in and Benjamin Pavard to be on the right? And is he comfortable in that role? Absolutely. And that's a big part of why they might really like the signing of Benjamin Pavard and why he might fit. So I think that it's a good one to keep in mind. I would lean towards Pavard, but that's, again, just kind of an opinion looking at the whole situation rather than of what will happen. I think I'd prefer Todibo, but my opinion of the situation and where it will go. But I think we will find out over the weekend and probably by around Tuesday when the Maguire situation is settled exactly who it will be pretty quickly. In terms of goalkeeper, it's been reported that Dean Henderson I was listening to the Talk of the Devils guys this morning, that their podcast just came out, and Andy Mitten and Lowry are starting to Laurie. God, I got to pronounce that correctly. I even know it. And so apologies to Laurie Whitwell. But Andy and Laurie were talking about the Henderson situation, how it's starting to feel like maybe it's not going to happen and that he's not going to go. It was reported that even though Matt Turner had signed, that Nottingham Forest were still looking at Henderson, but it is dragging, right? And I had heard there was some progress, but it's dragging and it's not happening. And if they're kind of hearing it's less and less likely, then I think that's probably accurate. It's less and less likely. But I think everybody has still heard that I speak with as well that United are still interested in a young goalkeeper and who made the offer to Zion Suzuki. I don't know who the other options are, but they're still looking. And it looks like Kovar is nearing an exit to Leverkusen, which is a good move. Bishop's obviously exited. Heaton set to stay. Henderson is going to be an unhappy camper if he's stuck at United. I don't think he'll really be the number 2. I don't think he's going to want to stick around long term, and so he's going to be just constantly looking for an exit. So it still makes sense to get another younger keeper, to kind of understudy Onana, since Tom Heaton is not a long-term one. So tricky situation here, and it makes it a little bit tricky for FFP purposes because they really do need to sell Henderson. And if they want to make more purchases, it makes it tough. And I think that it's going to be a problem. Probably rule out the situation of can we go and spend big on somebody if we can't even move Henderson on, frankly. But that's just kind of an assessment of it. It's not looking good for Henderson per those guys, and I think there's probably some truth to that. But they still want a young keeper. That has still been the case for some time as well, even with Tom Heaton set to stay. And then finally on Sofyan Amrabat, as I mentioned yesterday, there was some things starting to accelerate as far as I know. Let's see. As I'd heard yesterday, this obviously ties into Fred and Van de Beek. I'd heard that there was some progress on Fred and Van de Beek, and I heard at the same time that United were starting to prepare for Sofyan Amrabat as the most likely signing to come in next week. And so I think next week is a big week. I know this week's been a big week, but it's kind of like the groundwork being laid. The deal's getting lined up for Maguire. The deal's getting lined up for Fred, for Donny Van de Beek. But now you're running into these game weeks where everything has to happen between like Tuesday and Thursday. And that's what makes things have to really accelerate in those times. They get very busy once the season kicks off, but it has to be like squished into the small period of time for deals to actually occur. So likely early in the week, they're going to move really fast on Maguire, on Fred, and maybe on Van de Beek as well. But then at the same time, they're lining things up so they can pull the trigger in an instant on Sofyan Amrabat and on the center back situation. But it really does look like Amrabat. I know it was very fun getting excited about Tchouaméni and things like that. And as I said, it's like a million dominoes have to occur that are not likely to happen. And I don't think United can wait any longer, on signing a midfielder. I don't think that they can for a lot of these things to happen and wait till the very end of the window, because these deals for Fred and Van de Beek are probably something these clubs are going to want to get done next week. So I've been told to look for the potential of Amrabat arriving. I was given the same information in terms of Onana, in terms of Højlund, and it all turned out to be correct in terms of timing, that's when they went for the deal and in most cases got it done. So I think this is good information that they're preparing for Sofyan Amrabat to come in next week. Okay, that doesn't mean it's done, but again, they know the terms and conditions of the deal. They need to get these outs wrapped up, but it all has to start happening pretty simultaneously in these tiny 3-day windows between the end of one game week and the start of the next and the registration deadline, so that the players are, that they don't go into the team with 5 youth on the bench and nothing else. That cannot happen. That United cannot do. So it makes the timing tricky, but the work is still being done over the weekend. It's just in those tiny windows is when things have to occur. Okay, so that's what I've got. Other thing is not expecting a Mason Greenwood announcement today. I don't know. It's still supposed to be before the Wolves game. My feeling has been something Friday night. That's just been my feeling, because it makes sense with how news cycles works. Would be Friday night. I don't know. Again, everybody's expecting it before the Wolves game, but not today. So that's what I've got at the moment. Let's see if there's anything else. It looks like There's some reports that West Ham are still talking with McTominay, and I of course think that that's true, but at the same time, um, yeah. Yeah, so just a couple of things to think with. I'll just wrap this up with a couple of thoughts. Um, as far as I know, West Ham are wrapping up a deal with James Ward-Prowse. I mean, that's been reported on Twitter and stuff from employee who's I think very good for West Ham. I think he's like the best for West Ham, and I think that it's one or the other. Obviously, there's this whole situation with Paqueta. If McTominay goes, then maybe another player. Now, I don't know that. Again, I don't know that they can wait and spend a bunch of money on Amadou Onana or something like that, unless it happens really fast at the same time as Fred. Could they get two midfielders in? It's been reported, and it is true, that Tyler Adams, was offered to United as an option. Could they get Tyler Adams? And Amrabat? Tyler Adams is a good player, not a great player, but a good player, and someone at an affordable price that could provide some good coverage in defensive midfield and things like that. I know a lot of people won't like that and all of it. I'm just saying it's an option. So I don't know. If McTominay goes, I think then you'd have to get another person in. But you also don't want to block the path of Kabi Manu, Hannibal Mejbri, who looks set to be at some point involved in Manchester United. It's a little, things get a bit, as I've said, after this situation with Fred, Maguire out, Van de Beek out, and Pavard or Todibo and Amrabat, it gets messy. It gets very messy because there's a lot of moving parts to it and a lot of expenses. The other thing, obviously, is still one major thing, as I said. Once the Greenwood outcome is there a scenario being lined up for a potential short-term signing for an attacker so that United aren't so light up front there, like, Yao Felix on loan or something? Yes, that's a scenario being lined up and looked at. Doesn't imply anything. It just means it's something that people have been looking at, and I don't know where that goes. So again, those are kind of the unanswered questions that maybe we'll start to find out more about once these other situations get resolved. Okay, good. That's all I've got for today. Tomorrow I'll try to do a video again, obviously previewing the game, expected lineups, things like that, any other news that comes out, press conference, everything. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.